remarkable. And again, you're not paying me to say this or anything, right? So it's just like, it made me feel better about myself. I feel awful about myself when things don't work out. So I feel like I don't feel that way, Yeah.
And the frustration is gone?
Frustration's gone. So the question
really
is,
awesome.
If you're somebody like me and I'm like, okay, I don't ever want to do stuff without BlocLoc again, then what do you do in terms of figuring out what you would have? Like, should you always just all do 4-inch squares? Or do you, like, how do you decide what you're going to buy in your space? Like, because each shape is a different size, so you got to kind of have some on hand. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about beginners when they're using your system. What do you suggest they do?
You know what? When it comes to sizes of like triangle and a square, for example, I would say that you have to go by the look of the size of the blocks. Like some people don't like big blocks. Other people, they want to get it done quickly and they don't want to mess with small pieces. So imagine a 12-inch block. Okay, so if you have a 4-inch triangle and a square and you want to combine it with another unit, get a 4-inch in that other unit like kite in a square, and now you've, really magnified the number of blocks that you can do. Add that with a half-square triangle, like a 6.5, because that's a multiple-sized ruler, and you just add rulers like that. Try to match the numbers together, like 4-inch kiss, 4-inch kiss, 4-inch drunkard's path, and then you can mix and match in a lot of different ways.
So do you think that, like, I'm looking at the patterns right now, that if you got a set of the 4-inch tiss, like, of what you were doing, so I think, like I love the one you sent, the triangle and the square, but if you wanted to build and use other things, like, how do you know, I know what you just said, but I'm just saying, like, when I go to the website, I get confused again. So do you just pick out a pattern and then order what needs to go, and then eventually you have a whole bunch of them? Or do you know what I'm saying? Like, or should I just do the 4.5 by 4-inch by 4-inch, and then have a whole bunch of different ones that are available? You know what I'm saying?
Well, you've got the triangle in the Tis Amazing book, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So when you're approaching it from a book standpoint, the best thing to do in that situation then is to look at a pattern that you like, and then when you see the pattern, go over to the size block that you want, or on the other side there's an actual project, and then just get in the rulers for that
just get the rulers.
Particular project.
Them.
Yeah, because usually when that situation comes up, there's going to be a lot of other projects in the book that's using the same rulers, and you can use those same rulers over and over again.
And you can kind of sort of build up your stash of rulers project by project so that you...
exactly, yes.
Yeah. And how much are these rulers usually, if people are listening, like if you wanted to do a project, like how much are you... And they're acrylic and you can use them over and over again, so you're kind of building up tools that you can use over and over again. But how much does this one, the... a triangle and a square, like how economical is it for people if they are buying lots of different versions of your rulers? I'm going to go over and see. So,
well, the 4-inch triangle and a square is $29.50 for all 3 pieces.
That's great. And so then you would just be getting the same ones, like if you needed other, but a lot of them just need 1 or 2, so you don't have to, like, it's not, the investment is, you can kind of go over time with the investment, right? Looks like... Well,
that's true. And when you consider that there's 3 more books coming using the exact same rulers.
See, I didn't know. That's really
cool. And there's probably another couple of 100 projects that I could just flood the market with for free on our Facebook page, where I'm not very active on it, but I could do that, you know, and there's just unbelievable number of blocks you can do with the one ruler.
Yeah, it really, really, really is amazing. So for you, the patterns are, you're selling tools, you're selling rulers. So the patterns are, they're just to get people, I mean, not in a bad way, but in terms of your, like, buying the books are great, but as you said, free patterns, the patterns are just a means to get to the economics of the rulers. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you're like? The focus is the rulers,
it's kind
not
of
the patterns.
interesting. When we came out with BlocLoc rulers, the groove was really unusual for people.
Yeah.
And I tried to tell them our rulers work with everybody's patterns. You don't have to, I don't have to come out with any patterns at all, but, they kept asking me for patterns to work with BlocLoc, even though, it didn't matter what you picked up.
Right.
You could have used a BlocLoc with it. But so that's why we started coming out with all these projects.
Right. And you can go to your web.
They had that concern.
Right. And you can go to your website and get an individual pattern or a book. So that's very cool, of half square triangles or borders, or that's really cool. So it gives you a lot of because as a tool, it's like you start to think about it in a geometric way of what else can I do with this ruler to make things. So it's really cool.
Well, exactly. And for that Tis Amazing book, I came out with probably 10 to 12, I can't remember the exact number, of new techniques using the triangle and the square.
That's amazing.
And so it's really nice to be able to use the rulers in unusual ways. And once you know those techniques, you can apply them to other blocks using the same rulers, you see. So now you've just magnified what you can do with those as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I can't really explain to people how truly awesome it is. And I'm not somebody who says this very lightly, because I really hate piecing, because it always doesn't seem reasonable when I get done. I like paper piecing, but I don't like traditional, like this kind of work. And this really does change it. So, all right. So I'm way over exuberant about your product, but I really am amazed at how different it is, a different experience. And if you're someone like me that quilts late at night, it's really, really great. So what's the role of video tutorials in your business? How important is that to have video tutorials of how to use the rulers?
Oh, boy, it's incredibly important, because initially we started advertising in Fawns and Porter magazine, and customers wouldn't respond to it at all because they thought it was a piece of tape stuck to a ruler. So when we came out with the rulers, we thought, okay, advertising is not going to work. So, we started out by attending all of these quilt shows. So we would stand in our little booth and I would demonstrate. And we weren't reaching enough people. So the tutorials online are a lifesaver. People that, like you, they're quilting late at night and they're picking up their ruler and they're going, wait a minute,
right.
I forgot how to do this. I'm going to go to the website and see how to do this. Or how did this technique go again?
Right.
So we're expanding the videos all the time. About every 3 months we come out with maybe 10 new videos or so to help people with whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's really great. Tell me about the, it's called Hanging Around.
Oh, okay. Well, the hanging around, it takes several different forms, but it's a ruler holding system. So imagine this thing that's a tower that's clamped to your desk or hung from the ceiling, and you can load it up with, I know it says 72 rulers or so, but you can really load it up with a lot more than that. And then you can swivel it out of the way. You can rotate this disc, and it'll hang, every ruler up to an 8.5 by 24.5.
Great.
They're really great for keeping everything up and off the table so that you can save that for your fabric.
Yeah, that's really cool. I hadn't seen something like that before. Did you do any intellectual property work on that, or is that just something, did you try, does that have any patent stuff on it, or is that just sort of people just have it available for people, and like how protective are you?
Yeah, no, we decided not to go with a patent on that. We just decided to build it. And I haven't seen any other ruler holding systems like that. My husband, he's really, because he's an aircraft engineer, he's really particular about keeping rulers in the right condition.
Uh-huh.
And, those ruler holders where you put them in a slot, in a wooden slot.
Yeah.
Oh, that can actually damage your rulers.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So I used to have those rulers holders, and he said, "Yeah, I don't think that's such a good idea."
Yeah.
And sure enough, you take them in and you put them in and pull them out of those long enough, and they're going to start to chip.
All right, and then the next part of your system is the traction tape. Tell me about the traction tape and why is that important?
Oh my gosh! Well, those oversized cutting templates that go with the triangle and the square ruler and all the other. Some of the other rulers that we have, it's really important for that ruler not to slip or the cutting template not to slip on your fabric. And so this traction tape, it's incredibly thin. It's got the best adhesive in the world. I mean, once that traction tape you put it on a clean ruler and it's there to stay. It'll take about 24 hours for that adhesive to cure on the acrylic, and then it's actually kind of hard to get off. You'd have to use a razor blade to scrape it off. But, oh boy, it just does not slide around at all. And in fact, you don't need a turning mat. You can just put the ruler on there and cut and then just turn the ruler and it'll drag the fabric with the ruler. It's really fantastic.
So why did you decide to make it a separate thing? Like, why not just build in the tape? Like, why doesn't it just come with the tape on it?
Well, we did originally. We put it across the entire. Well, because we originally started with it on our flat ruler series, like, a 6x24 ruler, for example. We make those.
Yeah.
And we put them across the entire back, and that traction tape is really expensive stuff. It's like $15 per square foot. And so it makes the rulers, those types of rulers, really expensive. And don't get me wrong, you will be amazed how much better your cuts are. It's not going to slide at all. There's no struggling with it. But I wanted it as a separate purchase so that people could apply it to rulers that they already own. And it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
You could have, if you've got some other ruler, not ours, but some other ruler, a 6x24, and a little tiny half-inch strip along the one edge that you cut against, and it just changes it into this perfect ruler that isn't going to slide around.
Really.
And what's really great about it is that you can rinse it off. So it's going to get the lint buildup, and you just rinse it off in the kitchen sink. And then if you wear hand lotion while you're working with the ruler, you'll have to use soap on it once in a while and get it all cleaned off, and it'll go back to being grippy, and it'll last for years. It's a great investment.
Yeah. So where do people find, besides your website, which is, we'll have a link to the website on our webpage, where do people find your rulers?
At BlocLoc.com.
And then they're also in quilt shops too, right?
Oh, yeah. We would actually rather that quilters buy from their local quilt shop. We feel pretty strongly about people buying from their local quilt shops so that the quilt shops don't disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a problem in many years past. So, yeah, buying from a quilt shop is the way to go. If they don't have a local quilt shop that's carrying us, they can always ask. And the rulers are available through United Notions and also from us for the quilt shops.
Awesome.
So
that's super cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the rest of your quilting life, because you aren't just rulers. You've done a lot of other stuff. So you, from your website, I learned that you quilted for Fawns and Porter magazine and designed fabrics. And what do you still do those things, or are you focused on the BlocLoc now?
Well, I never designed fabric. I designed the projects.
Got it.
Right. And Paul and I developed the rulers together. But in terms of projects, I don't submit to magazines very often just because I don't have time.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep up in this business with everything that I have to do.
Yeah.
I usually have 3 books in the works and, trying to get all that stuff done. I wish I did have time to submit to more magazines. That would be great.
Yeah. So tell me more about tell me more about when you're publishing the books. How long does it take to make a book, and then what happens? Where do you send it? Like, do you have a particular publisher? Are you self-publishing? Sort of how does that process work?
Oh,